Hey traders from around the world, what's going on? It's me, Jeremy Alexander Newsom with Real Life Trading. Today is most certainly the 27th of February 2017. 2 days left of Friends Month, March 1st, which is Wednesday, starts Kids Month. Hope you're excited about that. If you have some children, anyone between the ages of 7 and 18 really are great candidates for Kids Month. Myself, Brad Reed, a few others, hopefully we'll be having some live webinars devoted and directed just to the kids of the world, teaching them about the stock market, investing, finance, and just otherwise genuinely cool stuff. And of course, parents can attend as well. Keep an eye out for your inbox for other links, videos, presentations, both online and recorded that you can get access to entirely for free. I'm sure you guys will enjoy it. So let's talk about the SPY really quick. This is the ETF that tracks the Standard & Poor's 500. What we're looking at right now, a little bit of a higher high and a higher low today on the SPY. So far, to my knowledge, nothing changing from just our last review. SPY, IWM, Qs, and the Dow all still look bullish on all time frames. So here's your IWM. Great candle. We've been talking just a few days ago about the bull put spread on the IWM. I know a lot of traders are getting into spreads. This is the one that has mostly been trading sideways for the most amount of time, and I think still has the most upside potential left before a pullback or anything like that happens. But the IWM, we've already bounced off the 50. The other ETFs, the Dow, the SPY, the Qs, they're just too high at this point to get into any kind of spread. But the IWM looks relatively healthy overall. So again, here's the Qs, nothing changing, a little bit of a higher high and a higher low since Friday, bouncing off the 10 exponential. And then here's the Dow Jones ETF slowly squeaking out a new all-time high. So more buying coming into today. That's pretty much been the news headlines for a bit. Let's hop into the markets. Apple, ticker symbol AAPL, nothing huge changing up here. Bottom line, the big takeaway on Apple is at an all-time high, my good friends. It's never been higher. And at this point, I would love some kind of pullback and dip buying opportunity, right? This pullback would just be a retest of the all-time high levels. So let's make sure to keep an eye on that. Here's Amazon today. Amazon on the daily chart, nice little bullish candle. Pretty simple, I feel like. We talked about this one in depth on the 21st of February because it was a white candle gapping up to an all-time high. So my question was, should we take the breakout here or should we buy the retest? And the overwhelming majority was buy the retest because it is a retest gap. So we got the retest on Friday, a little bit of a lower shadow buying type of candle, and then today posted another nice bullish candle as well. Let's go look at a few other stocks. Here's Lumber Liquidators, ticker symbol LL. I'm watching Lumber Liquidators here. What's interesting on this stock is you have a weekly chart that you'll notice if I really zoom out here and just turn all my moving averages off for a second. It looks like pure Dow theory. Accumulation, public participation, distribution, public participation, back to accumulation again. So yes, we've been trading sideways on Lumber Liquidators for a bit. I get it. But what's interesting is if you pull up the long-term moving averages, we are now above the 100 simple, and we've got a long way to go into the 200 simple. So that's interesting point number one. Interesting point number two, last week actually was a bullish gap and go. The only way you can do that is get a really strong gap like that at the very starting of the week, which was Tuesday since Monday was a holiday. So good gap on Lumber Liquidators, and on the daily, you got a little bit of a bullish gap today, and we're also above the long-term moving averages on the daily, and your exponentials on the daily, and good volumes coming in. So bottom line, yes, I'm starting to keep an eye out here on Lumber Liquidators for more of a longer-term trade, something that could take maybe a year, potentially even more. I'm not sure, but it's a nice buy low, sell high accumulation phase, and in a market like this, that's definitely what you have to be keeping your eyes out for. What stock is this? NVFY. This was requested from Bobby, and this is the weekly chart on Nova Lifestyle. What's interesting to take note of, this stock had a lot of volume come in on a daily chart just a few days ago. So this is the daily chart. You'll notice huge amounts of volume just 2 or 3 days ago. What usually happens in stocks like this, and when I say stocks like this, lower price stocks that have less than 1 million shares usually, and no one really knows the product or don't really know anything about the company. When you do get a lot of volume, it's kind of already too late at that point, right? Back here, you had a little bit of a breakout, and then one more final push, a lot of volume, and then we rolled over. Is that going to happen again? Well, maybe, right? A lot of volume came in, and now we're already making some lower moves. So my thought on this particular situation, this particular stock, here's a weekly chart. And the reason I look at a weekly is usually if I don't know what the stock is doing or what it's done in the past. But here's a nice support level here at approximately $2. I could probably actually drop it a little bit lower. Let's do right about there. $1.86. And that is conjoining that support resistance, this level, this support, that support, and pretty much where we are right now. So my thoughts on NVFY is on the daily chart, we have a bearish candle today with light volume. So if we close tomorrow or sometime soon bullish above $2.34, I will be more bullish on NVFY. Otherwise, if we start breaking some of this $1.75 lows, my guess is it probably slowly slips into the abyss. Let's go look at Intel, ticker symbol INTC. My good buddy Brian Sharkey has some shares with a $36.50 covered call. Beautiful Chris Hemsworth, Hammer of Thor, came in on the 10th of February here off that support and also off of the 200 simple moving average. So that's why Brian bought down there. Very good buy low, sell high kind of situation. And so now we're really just trading sideways on Intel in the middle of a very nice channel. So if and when Intel closes, it kind of breaks above 36.77, which could happen this week. I think the next target would be about 38.25, just simply looking at a price on Intel that we have traded at before. So here's your weekly perspective of Intel. And I know my good buddy Neil's and a lot of other traders long Intel for a while. That one's still just kind of hanging out, grinding sideways, doing its thing. Let's go look at TAP. Always a fan favorite, Coors Brewing Company. So this is the daily chart on this particular stock, and had a good buddy ask me what he thought on TAP. So here's my take on it. We're battling the long-term moving averages right now. You had a good volume, good breakout on earnings, and we just moved very, very quickly from this support to this resistance. Boom, boom. So in this situation, I think we actually do one of two things. If we close below 98.68, we trade a little bit lower, potentially coming all the way back down to 94.71, giving us another good buying opportunity. If that doesn't happen, in order to go bullish on TAP, I need to close above 101.27, which is just a close above both long-term moving averages and a close above the bullish candle that we got on Friday and the bearish candle that we got on Thursday. Here it is on a weekly chart. And you'll kind of see it looks a little bit like a double bottom on a weekly. So yeah, TAP starting to brew up some bullish opportunities, but if the stock does pull down lower, it could give another good buying opportunity. Speaking of beer companies, a lot of traders know I love Budweiser, bullish down here, ticker symbol BUD. Dollar cost average after a put sale at 103.88. So now we're sitting here at 109.34 with a 115 covered call expiring in 3 weeks on Budweiser. So really, if you go to a weekly chart, very simple, very classic. Buy low, sell high, right? Here's your support, here's your resistance. That was pretty much it. So we'll see what happens from here. I don't know what's going to happen on earnings, but Budweiser does pay a dividend. I like the stock long term. I know how they make money, and I do use them relatively frequently. All right, so there's TAP and there's Budweiser. Here's Nintendo, NTDOI. Speaking of a company that I do know how to make money, but I don't use them very frequently. At least I used to. Budweiser looked good on a long term, so let's look at Nintendo. So here's your weekly chart. Nintendo, huge bearish move after '08, long-term accumulation, and here's all the news and the buzz about Pokemon Go, creating a giant retest gap. Well, Nintendo did gap up, it did retest, and is actually retesting a second time. So the interesting thing on this, long-term moving averages, we're above them on a weekly chart, and if you hop over here to a daily chart, we're below them. So that's showing a little bit of neutrality, in my opinion, right? We're below them on the long terms, on the daily, and above them on the weekly. So more than likely this stock continues to trade kind of sideways in this general area. Good for bull put spreads, put sales, or credit spreads of some kind, or maybe if you own shares, potential covered calls. If you're looking at buying Nintendo, yes, it's a good opportunity to buy down here. Simplistically though, this is a great support at a good level, but more than likely it probably just kind of continues to grind because again, you're above the long-term moving averages on a weekly, but below them on a daily, And the last few times that's happened, like over here, we just kind of grind and trade sideways. So yes, it is a good buying opportunity around $24.75. If we can actually get some closing prices above this level, above this $26, $27 price range, I'd feel a bit more comfortable with it, directionally bullish. Let's go look at U.S. Steel, ticker symbol X. A lot of traders been doing some analysis, some great analysis here on U.S. Steel recently. Got to give a shout out to Sam, who is Bob's son. Sam's only 18 years of age and bought his first call option on U.S. Steel very recently. So Sam, high five, buddy. Great job, man. Investing in your future already at 18 is a very wise thing to do. And I know there's going to be a lot of people, including myself, if they said, man, if I only knew the stuff I know now at 18, right? So great job, man, on U.S. Steel. I like this particular trade setup. Here's what I see on U.S. Steel. Back on the 23rd, which was this bearish candle, I mentioned the next day we would likely get a small white candle, which we did get on Friday. So today, which is Monday, we broke the high of that candle, forming a kind of a morning star-ish type of pattern. Now, granted, the first candle is a little bit more bearish than I like to see, but it is a morning star type of pattern. Matthew is in some bull put spreads. Angela is in bullish, and I think a few other traders are in bullish on U.S. Steel as well. So here's your exponential moving averages. We're kind of battling them a little bit from the bottom, the 10. So again, if we break above the high of today's candle tomorrow on U.S. Steel, I figured it could continue bullish. You got a good support here at 32.13, which we bounced off of. I think I can probably take this support resistance line and move it up to 37.31. So at this particular juncture on U.S. Steel, what do I personally think? Well, looking at it on a weekly chart, looking at the moving averages, the trend still looks bullish. So if you're in bullish, looks good. Personally, I'm waiting for it to trade down, back down to about $32 and some change before I personally do another long on it. So something like this. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but that's just what I'm waiting for. Keeping an eye out on it, seeing if that's going to happen. You'll notice this purple line. We're at the 200 simple moving average on a monthly chart, which I almost never look at, but the stock's been around forever. And it's a great resistance back in September of 2014. So I figured it could be another quick resistance. So for those of you who are in U.S. Steel, bullish, just keep that in mind and look to lock in gains quicker than sooner than later. Is that the term? And then if it pulls down to the 100 on U.S. Steel, I'll be looking to buy it at that particular price range. All right, two others, NVIDIA and then Tesla. NVIDIA, so we talked about this one on Friday in depth. This little pink line, a.k.a. Mr. Squiggles, this is what I drew in on Friday, expecting NVIDIA to do, and almost got triggered into a bullish day trade on NVIDIA today. Missed it by a few seconds. So you'll notice it was a white candle gapping up, right? So it was a retest gap. So my thought process, if I hop in here to a 5-minute chart, this was the first 5-minute candle, the last 5-minute candle of the pre-market. So I was looking at getting in above that high with a stop below that low and just never got filled. It just kind of broke through my entry before I could get it in the system and it just kind of ran, never pulling back. So NVIDIA looks good. Again, my overall thoughts on it, just expecting it to kind of bounce. This is a retest gap that occurred on the 22nd to the 23rd. Looking forward to retest, potentially roll over again, creating a relative low around the 100 simple moving average, and from there potentially a bounce. But a lot of traders down here in bullish or looking to be bullish on NVIDIA with call options, put sales, bull put spreads, or buying shares. Matt, Ron, a lot of other traders, probably too many to name. But anyway, keep your eyes on this one. I like it. I'm interested to see what it's going to do. This is definitely a little bit of a bearish gap right here, but if we can fill the gap a little bit and then rotate and then bounce, I like NVIDIA in a distribution phase here. And speaking of NVIDIA, both NVIDIA and Tesla, two of the most talked about stocks I feel like over the last few days. Here's your exponential moving averages on Tesla. White candle gapping down today was a bearish gap and go, and it did run quickly into its target, the 50 exponential moving average on Tesla. I kind of played Tesla a little bit poorly today. Played it really well with the first 1 minute bearish gap and go, but then after that, just kind of was dumb. So I went 1 for 3 on Tesla, losing an R. Yeah, losing an R on it. So here's my very, very first entry on Tesla, which had I held would have been a 2R trade, and that would have been it for me. Here's your pre-market support. Once it broke that support, I placed a stop right there, and I looked to short it as it pulled back. Harry Potter came in and wizarded the stock down, coming within about 2 cents from my stop right there. So I exited the trade right about there for about a quarter of an hour. Had I just held like 4 or 5 other minutes, my target was down here. Would have been a very easy 2-hour trade. Why didn't I hold? Because I'm a giant chicken. That's pretty much why. So Tesla, too bad. I tried taking 2 other trades on it, lost on both. Lost small, but lost regardless. Up on the day, though, thanks to Latoya and her amazing trading. So here's the daily chart on Tesla. What do I think is going to happen from here? Well, realistically, strong bearish gap down. I did mention after the day of earnings that if we made a lower low the next day, which was Friday, then we likely would trade into the 50. Well, we're there. So now I'm going to begin to watch Tesla, literally bracket trading it, see if we can close above today's candles tomorrow, and I'll expect a little bit of a bullish bounce into here and some kind of weird formation that looks a little bit like that. I'm not saying that's exactly how it's going to play out, but that's kind of what I'm expecting. There's a little bit of a bullish pop into Tesla, and then it's eventually roll over. Just a consolidation up here on a bigger picture. So for those of you who have shares, congratulations. For those who got a chance to do a 300 March week 1 covered call, lowering your dollar cost average. That will expire worthless, and it looks like we'll get a chance to do another one of those on Tesla. Again, I don't have any position at all on Tesla, but I know a lot of traders who do have some shares. So it was a great way of selling some calls, locking a little bit more of a gain because it was a very, very, very obvious resistance here on Tesla. We've been here 3 times before. We failed on both of them. And again, if you want my opinion on what it's likely going to do, just come back to the last time it was in this area after bouncing off of 181.75, taking about 2 months to do it, and it probably consolidates, bounces around, trades lower, and then maybe trades higher. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm watching that. That's kind of the area that I'm researching to get a good perspective, a good feel for what Tesla's going to do in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Folks, thanks so much for watching this particular review. I really appreciate it. You guys are absolutely amazing. Just keep in mind, you can request any stock that you are interested in. I'll be happy to look at it for you in the next review, which will be on Wednesday, March the 1st. Folks, you rock. Thanks for watching. Until next time, love life, live life, and trade it. Bye.